Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX. I am Meenakshi Upreti. Now, the top focus for this bulletin, as far as the security of the country is concerned, there is a major concern regarding the same. 3 different states, 3 different IEDs found. That is the major concern. Just days before Republic Day, we have seen 3 states, Punjab, the national capital, and Srinagar, where major terror plots have been averted. As far as Punjab is concerned, the police acted on a very specific input coming in from the agencies. The input was that there were some Pakistani element who could be trying to foment trouble. And right in Atari, right next to the Pakistan border, there was an IED and 1 lakh rupee in cash which was found. The IED had, believe it or not, Pakistani market. Similar incident in the national capital. We saw that a major terror plot had been averted. As far as a major flower market in the national capital is concerned, the agencies were able to found IED. The IED was exploded, of course, in a very contained manner, and there was fortunately no damage caused. Similarly, RDX IED found in Srinagar as well. 3 different states, 3 different incidents, but certainly there seems to be a common thread. A common thread and a common threat that is emanating very clearly from Pakistan. What's also happened is a similar and simultaneous incident. What we saw were 2 train derailments, one in West Bengal and one, of course, today, the latest coming in. As far as the Rajdhani Express is concerned, there was cement placed on the track, which, quote-unquote, was placed by some miscreants. Now, is this a mere coincidence? Were these just accidents or train derailments waiting to happen, or is there a more sinister plot? Can we think, or can we reach a conclusion, at least as far as the IEDs which have been found across 3 states in India is concerned, could they have a Pakistani link or not? That is exactly what we will be discussing in the next half an hour in the course of this program. I have, of course, a panel of experts who are joining us live as we speak. I'll just be introducing them very shortly. The panel of experts, of course, will be shedding light on how we should read these incidents and what exactly really do they mean as far as security apparatus of our country is concerned. I have Shashikant, former DGP Punjab, who's joining us live. We also have Ved Bhushan. He is the former ACP of the national capital. We also have Mr. B.L. Vora. He is an internal security expert. And we have Madhav Nalapad. He is the editorial director of the Sunday Guardian. I'd like to start with you, Mr. B.L. Vora, first. We have 3 different incidents, sir. One which has happened in Delhi, one which has happened, of course, in Srinagar, and the third in Punjab. Very similar. IEDs found just days before Republic Day. Certainly a major security concern. But when we have an IED which has been found in Punjab with a Pakistani marking, can we say that there is reasonable doubt? If not very conclusively, we can say, but certainly reasonable doubt to say that it is Pakistan which is trying to foment trouble in India, which is trying to disturb our internal security just days before 26th of January, sir.
Not a question of reasonable doubt. It is confirmed.
Yes.
It is definite Pakistan which is doing it. What we got at the border is a proof, visible proof. But otherwise also, whatever is happening in India in the past and now, or will happen in future, is all because of Pakistan. And it's double speak. As you recall, they just announced their national security policy, where they talked of 100 years peace with India. And they wanted to focus on the trade. But this is all a double speak. The crocodile tears, as one can say, perhaps. Now, even the train things you're saying, let me tell you, see how they operate. Of course, everyone knows it, but still, just for the sake of my satisfaction, see, the people at top, they are the one who plans, and then there are separate cells. You can call them sleeper cells, which are activated at times. So one group will not know as to what the other group is doing and when it is doing and what it is doing. So there are different groups operating in various parts of India, and they are the ones who are tasked to give it. And now Republic Day, definitely, I tell you, we are very lucky. Prime Ministers, add to that the Prime Minister's cavalcade issue in Punjab and the Ghazipur Mandi thing. Of course, we were lucky that nothing happened in both of those incidents. But we can't be lucky every time. So we have to be very, very vigilant, not only in the border states, not only the capital, but in the hinterland.
Yes.
And in all states of India, including in the northeast, because China also is a friend of Pakistan.
Absolutely.
And let us not rule out the possibility of any mischief.
And I think, sir, that is very
China
interesting,
also.
sir. And I'd like to quote you to take this conversation further. Let us not rule out the possibility of any mischief. Madhav Nalapat, sir, if you could just come in here. You know, since we are discussing the possibilities of mischief, train derailment, not very common. And I'm not insinuating that it was Pakistan which was behind the train derailments, but certainly it seems to be quite mischievous. It seems to be quite intriguing as well. The fact that we have 2 train derailments and one caused by some cement pillar which has been placed by miscreants. Who are these miscreants? Could they not be these forces who are acting inimical to the interests of India? Do you see a more sinister plot here, or would you also agree, of course, with Mr. B.L. Vora that we cannot rule out the possibility of any mischief, considering these incidents are happening so close to each other and right before Republic Day, sir?
Well, I'd like to agree completely with Mr. Vora that there doesn't seem to be any doubt at all that the Sino-Pakistan axis is behind this kind of incidents.
Yes.
And the problem is that over the years, over the decades, they have established networks in India. And these networks, I mean, partly the networks are manned by individuals who have slipped across the border, partly individuals from other countries who are now staying in India. But a lot of them are also Indian nationals.
Yeah.
So that domestic element, they would like it to grow and grow to such a level that they can say that, look, all this is happening, it's all your own people, we have nothing to do with it. When the fact is that these domestic elements have been basically discovered and nourished and misinformed by them. So I would completely go with what Mr. Vora was saying, that there's no doubt. I want to just point out the effort of China is essentially to ensure that India does not become an economic tiger.
Yes.
That Indian and railways are a very important component of the economy. So that is the first point. The second point is to give an impression to investors in India and abroad, don't put money in India, because if you do that, this is a country that is in grave danger, it's falling apart, creating an entirely wrong impression of India at a time when investors are looking increasingly at India. I'm talking about investors in China, international investors. They're looking at India. So this is a clear game plan, and I think it's very obvious that this is the game plan. And I'm quite certain that there would be a lot of effort going to ensure that this game plan does not succeed.
All right. And, you know, sir, you speak of Pakistan. Of course, Pakistan today, even as we speak, has released its national security policy. It's the first time they've come up with a national security policy. Interestingly, when you speak of terror, there seems to be no accountability. They have mentioned India multiple times. They have acknowledged that terror is hurting them as well. But, of course, when it comes to state-sponsored terror, there is no acknowledgement of that from Pakistan.
I'd like to add one. I'd like to add one point. And that is that particular document makes it clear that India must surrender whatever Pakistan wants.
Yes.
And then Pakistan will be
absolutely. And that was exactly.
Once we surrender, we'll be 10 times weaker than before. So essentially they're saying, you destroy yourself, and then we'll be friends of yours.
Absolutely. It's the frankest time to just come back to bite them, sir. And, you know, Mr. Shashikant, if you could just, sir, come in here. I do not want to politicize this debate at all. But when you have internal fissures, you know, when there is breach in the Prime Minister's security when he comes to Pakistan, when the Punjab government starts raising issues, if central forces are even wanting to man the border areas, do you not think, as we were discussing the other day as well, that these forces which are inimical to India's interests end up taking advantage of that? Yes, today we have been able to avert this terror attack. it is commendable, the job which has been done by Punjab Police. They acted on our input, they acted on time, and they were able to not only recover the IED but also establish the Pakistani link. But the fact that this Pakistani link has been established, doesn't it really, should it not be a wake-up call for our governments as well to act in tandem to ensure that, you know, we are able to keep these forces like Pakistan in check and not let them ferment trouble in India, especially so close on the heels of Republic Day, sir?
Well, I came in just now, so I don't know what all was discussed earlier, but I guess they are talking about the recovery of explosives, and I think that they are RDX, though I have not seen any official confirmation there too. If it's RDX, positively, it is the hand of the sleeper cells. Whatever the gentlemen were talking about, the fishers and all those things, we call them sleeper cells. And unfortunately, as on date, still we have sleeper cells of these countries like Pakistan and whatever it is. Because China's sleeper cells, probably that works through Pakistan. That's what my information says from the intelligence agencies. The sleeper cells are there. Unfortunately, that none of the sleeper cells have been neutralized till now. And they are these cells which are creating all the problems. As far as this putting up this concrete slab, etc., on the railway platform is concerned, I'll rather again, because I don't like to jump on the conclusions, I would like to wait for the police investigation that's going on. But yes, one thing is clear, that in India, there are lots of sleeper cells which are activated by their masters whenever they wanna.
Well, absolutely. And as far as, you know, these sleeper cells are concerned, you know, I'd like, of course, Ved Bhushan to come in here, since you have worked, of course, so closely when we speak about the security of the national capital. Absolutely sensitive, the time very, very crucial. We have Republic Day, it's just days away, and when you have, you know, incidents like this which come to light, certainly it raises a lot of eyebrows. What would be your advice? How do we ensure that, you know, these sleeper cells, which Mr. Shashikant is also talking about, are not able to pull off a similar stunt and perhaps, you know, something which could cause even some sort of damage? We hope that doesn't happen, but there is always a possibility, and we cannot deny that our market areas, etc., you know, are quite vulnerable.
Yes, Meenakshi, two important things to be mentioned here.
Okay.
One thing is place. Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, so please go ahead.
दो इम्पोर्टेंट चीजें हैं, प्लेस और टाइम.
जी.
आपको याद होगा जब भी हमारे इंडिपेंडेंस और रिपब्लिक डे होती है, देयर इज ऑलवेज सब कुछ टेररिस्ट पकड़ जाते हैं, कुछ ना कुछ टेररिस्ट इस तरह की चीजें होती हैं. अब जो ये फिलहाल जो गाजीपुर के अंदर जो आईडी पकड़ा गया, जिसको एनएसजी ने खत्म कर दिया, डिब्लास्ट कर दिया, उसके अंदर चार मेन चीजें हैं. सबसे चीज है क्राउडेड प्लेस. वहां पर इंडिया की नहीं, एशिया की सबसे बड़ी मंडी है, मुर्गा मंडी, सब्जी मंडी, फ्लावर मंडी, मीट मंडी, जहाँ लाखों आदमी की आमदोरफ्त होती है. आदमी आता जाता है, 65 सिपाही आते जाते हैं. और आप टाइमिंग देखेंगे तो 26 जनवरी है, उधर इलेक्शन का माहौल है. तीसरा इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है कि गाजीपुर वो प्लेस है जहाँ पर किसान लोग बैठे हुए थे, और वहां पर खालिस्तान की एक सुगबुगाहट थी कि देर सम खालिस्तानी एलिमेंट्स. तो जिस तरह का चार्ज एटमॉस्फेयर प्रेवेल करता है कैपिटल में और इन तमाम स्टेट्स में, स्पेशली इन पंजाब एंड श्रीनगर, दोनों बॉर्डरिंग है. और जिस तरह से अटारी बॉर्डर के पास में 5 किलोग्राम का आरडीएक्स मिलना, क्योंकि ड्रोन से भी डाला जा सकता है, दूसरे माइन पावर के द्वारा भी डाला जा सकता है. इट्स एन इजी थिंग. बट ये तमाम चीजें अलर्ट करती हैं हिंदुस्तान की तमाम चीजों को कि ये बड़ा वेकअप टाइम है हम लोगों के लिए. अदरवाइज इट विल बी बिग.
I get your points. It's certainly a wake-up call, and as far as the vulnerability of our market areas, these crowded areas is concerned, you have very succinctly pointed out the areas on which we need to work. BL Vora, really, sir, what would your suggestion be? As far as Pakistan is concerned, all of us know that this mischief is created by Pakistan. The pattern is very clear. When you have an IED which is discovered in Punjab, which has a Pakistani marking, our forces are acting on very specific input. You have the Punjab IGP, who has very clearly come out and spoken about, you know, Pakistani hand in dropping explosive across the border. What really do we do as far as Pakistan is concerned? Because Pakistan clearly is not interested, and they're never going to accept the fact that they have weaponized terrorism.
Constant vigil is needed. I'm sure it is there, but it has to be much more heightened and increased before the Republic Day. Second, as Professor Nalapat was saying earlier, it's very important. economic subversion of India. That is why Bombay was attacked. And if you recall, there was once also an input, intelligence input, that similar thing might take place in somewhere in South also, because they had some agents in Maldives and Sri Lanka also. So I think throughout India, we all have to be very, very careful. And of course, we should pay back Pakistan in the same coin. I'm sure all this is being done, being planned by people who are in the know of things and who are working there. But I think this coming 10 days are going to be very, very crucial, because there is so much of hate for the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, personally, all over the world by these elements, that they would go to any lengths to do any mischief to India at the moment, so that his credibility goes down and India lands into trouble.
And that
let
really...
me also remind you that we are going to have 5 heads of state, I think, on the Republic Day as our guests. Now, if something happens in these days or on that day or somewhere near the Republic Day parade, that is going to be a catastrophe for India.
Well,
So we have to
absolutely,
be very,
and
very
these are forces who are looking really to, harm the image of India, and that's their plot, and that's exactly what we need to avoid. And Madhav Nalapat sir, sorry I had to interrupt you earlier, but since I had touched upon the national security policy of Pakistan, they have acknowledged that yes, terror is hurting their interest as well, but just as our guests have also been saying that the idea of Pakistan is to hurt India because it's Prime Minister Narendra Modi who is at the helm of affairs. If you read the national security policy also of Pakistan, very interestingly, they've mentioned that it's Hindu forces who are ruling the country, and that is exactly what they need to be very wary of. What really do you really see a pattern here, sir, when we speak of these IEDs which have been recovered, when we see train derailments, which are happening? What really do you think India should do? Because exposing Pakistan on a world forum certainly ain't working, sir.
Well, I'd like to point out that placing a concrete pillar on the railway tracks, it's a low-tech way of an act of mass murder, of an act of mass killing. And you don't forget, 9/11 was very low-tech. All that the hijackers had were box cutters, little knives which are used not to cut anything major, but to cut through boxes. All they had were box cutters which got through security. So the problem is that now low-tech instruments are being used. So you don't even need to drop RDX from drones, and you don't need very high sophistication in your networks because the methods are low-tech. I would like to say that I fully agree with what the other discussants have been saying. And as Mr. Vora correctly pointed out, there's an atmosphere sought to be created about India, which is completely alien to the reality. I mean, a country where, for example, you have about 250 million individuals from minority communities, is now there's an effort to paint India as anti-minority. And a country like Pakistan, where minorities have vanished almost, is ignored. China, authoritarian state. And the effort is to say it's not China. The real authoritarian state is India. So this kind of propaganda is going on, and there does need to be an answer for it. The problem with this propaganda is people who believe it, some in the country, some outside the country, they are willing to go the extra mile.
It's the propaganda. It's the propaganda which we need to fight. It's the propaganda, of course, which countries like Pakistan, which countries like China are perpetuating against India, and that's exactly what we need to fight. How do we do that? That's exactly what we will look at. 3 IDs recovered from 3 different locations across the country has certainly raised questions about a possible attempt to wreak havoc and terrorize the people of India. Not just these IDs. The train derailments also, 2 suspicious train derailments which have happened also have raised a lot of eyebrows. That's exactly what we are discussing in this half an hour. Professor Nalapat, of course, sir, you were just talking about fighting propaganda of Pakistan and how it's really easy to drop weapons, etc. across the border. Mr. Shashikant, sir, since you have very closely been associated when we speak about the security apparatus in Punjab, I guess it's a very fair point. It's very, very easy for terrorists who are operating from Pakistan to drop, explosive, to drop IEDs via drones, or to just, get them shipped from the border. There are a lot of sleeper cells, as we all know, something which you also have acknowledged on the program. What really do we do? How do we stem the problem? How do we nip it in the bud? How do we ensure that these IEDs and these explosives are not transferred from our borders, that infiltration is not as easy as it is right now?
Yes, me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. I'll agree with Mr. Vora and Mr. Nalapat, right? And whatever they said, I fully subscribe to their viewpoints, and I think that we have to do it. Again, as far as the last participant is concerned, sorry, I couldn't get his name. Here I would like to sort of put in a word of caution. What is happening is Punjab right now, that all over the country, particularly in social media, a hype is being created once again about Khalistan, Khalistan, Khalistan. Let me tell everybody, through your TV, there's no such thing called Khalistan. There is no such wave. Nobody is talking about it in Punjab. There's some elements sitting abroad, or of course Pakistan. If we keep on raising this particular bogey, what we are doing, we are trying to just alienate Punjab once again. Please don't do it. We fully agree.
But sir, as of now, nobody is even speaking or even insinuating that anyone in Punjab has any Khalistani links. Khalistanis have been rejected. The Khalistanis only exist in UK and Canada, and I agree with you, but that is not the point right now.
I'm just responding to the last gentleman, fourth gentleman who spoke about Khalistan, this and that. Please, let's confine ourselves to sleeper cells, and which are all over the country, not necessarily only in Punjab. Why you want to alienate Punjab?
Sir, nobody is alienating Punjab. My direct question to you was, how do you stop the infiltration of explosives which is happening in Punjab? And every second day, sir, we do see drones dropping explosives. How do we stem that? Let's stick to the topic.
What is happening at number of places? I hate use the word Khalistan, because there is no such concept. Please don't alienate Punjab. That's about all I want to say. I'm sure Mr. Vora and Mr. Nalpat would like to react to that. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Ved Bhushan, sir, if you could come into the conversation as far as Khalistan is concerned, nobody in the program is insinuating. Let me reiterate that anyone in Punjab has any Khalistani links. Khalistan has been rejected by the people of Punjab. Obviously, those who are trying to alienate Punjabis are foreign forces, and there is no one really in India who's trying to do that. But anyway, Mr. Ved Bhushan, sir, when you have, two train derailments which you see, when you see that you have, cement pillar which has been placed on tracks, it hits the Rajdhani Express, the train was also en route Delhi. That's why I'm asking you these questions. How do you read these developments? Do you just see that as a mere coincidence, or do you think that there could be a larger plot perhaps to destabilize our country right ahead of Republic Day, sir?
मीनाक्षी, मैं कभी खालिस्तान की बात नहीं करता. केवल एक पॉइंट ऑफ इन्वेस्टिगेशन हो सकता है. इसके बारे में पुलिस और जो इन्वेस्टिगेटिंग एजेंसी जांच करेंगे, वेदर इट वाज ए कोइंसिडेंट और इट वाज प्लान. आप देखिए, रैकी की गई होगी जरूर. गाजीपुर सब्जी मंडी एक ऐसी जगह है जहां पर बिना रैकी के इतना महंगा बॉम्ब कोई प्लांट नहीं करेगा. वहां पर लाखों के, दिल्ली में आपको पता है कर्फ्यू लगा हुआ है, इलेक्शन का टाइम है और कोविड का टाइम है. वहां पर उनका केवल एक मैसेज देना था, अक्रॉस इंटरनेशनल मैसेज दे वांट टू गिव, कि हम कहीं भी जाकर ब्लास्ट कर सकते हैं, कैपिटल में ब्लास्ट कर सकते हैं. वहां से हार्डली 7-8 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर हमारा रिपब्लिक डे का एक बड़ा फंक्शन होने वाला है. अभी बोरा साहब बता रहे थे विजिलेंट रहने की जरूरत है. तो मैं खालिस्तान का कोई पॉइंट नहीं है.
So let's not digress. And please don't get into personal attacks. We are not discussing Khalistan here today.
Yes.
We are simply discussing these IED. Yes, we are simply discussing these IEDs which have been found, and of course these suspicious train accident, derailment which has taken place. Let's stick to the topic. What do you think of these train derailments, sir? Let me go across now to BL Vora. Sir, coming back to the topic, how do you see these train derailments? Do you see it as mere coincidence, or is there a possibility of a sinister plot? That's something which, of course, our agency should look into.
It is not a coincidence. It is definitely planned, right at the highest levels in Pakistan. Only thing is, different hands are doing this work, different sleeper cells are doing this work, one not knowing the other, and that is how all intelligence agencies frankly operate. Now the need of the hour is, as I said in the beginning also, to be vigilant. And I think even railways and all, I think RPF and others also will have to be very, very vigilant. Not only, it's not only the responsibility of the local or state police only. I think all the departments of the government now will have to be very careful. The customs, for example, at the airport, or the immigration also at the airport, the coastline, the National Security Guard. I mean, every agency, whichever is concerned, the border management, all the paramilitary forces, which are the various borders, everybody has to be very, very vigilant.
It is time to be.
I am very confident that we'll be able to avert.
Well, absolutely, sir. There is no doubt about that. There is no doubt about that. There is no doubt about, of course, the efficacy and the alertness with which our forces are working. It's one of the reasons why you and I are very sitting safely from the comfort of our homes, conducting these debates, because the IEDs were found, and they were found right in the nick of time. So I completely agree with you here, sir. But Malav Nadapad, sir, I didn't want to end this debate on a pessimistic note. But when we speak of Pakistan, what happened when we speak of 26/11? Absolutely nothing. You speak of top terrorists, all of them have been living a lavish life, in Pakistan. From the US to India, everyone knows, who are these terrorists, who I'm talking about, where they live. Pakistan is not going to act on them. And even in this incident, it's very obvious. If raised, Pakistan is going to flatly deny any involvement. What can Indian forces do? Is there anything we can do at all, other than, of course, depending on the alacrity and alertness of our agencies?
Well, Pakistan is doing a lot, frankly, by destroying itself.
Yeah.
By fomenting terror and by various other ways, including the stifling control of the military. It is destroying itself. And today, I mean, much more than in the late 80s and early 90s, when I used to visit Punjab often.
Yeah.
And there, I fully agree with the discussants. The people of Punjab are very, very patriotic. Even at that time, they stood fully by India. They did not fall, barring very few exceptions, they did not fall a victim to this particular conspiracy by Pakistan. And today, much more than during the late 80s and early 90s, when remember there's a lot of problem in Kashmir also, and there was an effort to connect Kashmir and Punjab as a cauldron of trouble. Well, Pakistan has exposed itself very clearly across the whole world.
Yeah.
Pakistani passports are seen with great suspicion. And I'd like to end this by saying, whenever I used to travel to Punjab during that period, I was struck by the patriotism and resilience of the people of the Punjab. And I can tell you, they fought this so-called, Pakistan, Khalistan thing at that time. And I can tell you, today they will be 10 times more determined because they have seen what Pakistan wants for the Punjab. They want Punjab to burn, and they want the whole country to burn. And individuals all across India see this.
Yeah.
Now, one request I've got, please, the government of India, state governments, please have a good public information strategy.
Yeah.
Don't hoard your information. Don't hoard your, in such a way the public does not know what you know. Share with the public what you know. And I can tell you, the public will be with you.
Well, absolutely. Sharing of information, absolutely critical and crucial. And I think, sir, you have summed it up succinctly. When we speak of patriotism of the people of India, there is no doubt that every citizen stands with our forces. And certainly, as we end, salute to our forces, salute to our agencies. That's one of the reasons why these IEDs were found, and all of us are sitting from the comfort of our homes and even assessing really how we can avert these incidents in the future. But certainly a pattern seems to be emerging. When you have 3 IEDs found from 3 different locations in the country, when you have 2 suspicious train derailments happening, and in one incident a clear Pakistani hand has been established, it does go to show to what extent can Pakistan stoop to divide us, to harm our internal security. But certainly India prepared to take on all these actors and all these foreign forces who want to act against our interests. On that note, I'd like to thank all our experts who joined us on the show.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.